Yeah. Figure might as well just start it on my own. I could play like I could. Oh, and he shows up. There he is. I was like, maybe they'll be a little late, and I should just start on my own. But he pops in. Namaste. How are you, bro? How are you both?
Hey, Haribo. Still alive, man.
Oh, I was gonna play a video because I thought you guys were gonna take a while. Do you want to? Do you want to? I'll just play a video for a second.
Are we live?
Yeah, yeah, we're already live, bro. Because I thought you guys were gonna take a while. Do you want to?
Oh,
Do you want to? I'll just play a video for a second.
Are we live?
Yeah, yeah, we're already live, bro. 'Cause
Whoa,
I thought you guys were gonna take
delay.
a while. Do you
That's
want
like
to?
a 5 second delay.
This is amazing. I don't know. It's gone now. It's still there. What's up, Bava, bro? That's what we're gonna call James,
I
bro.
can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's like the inside out audio there.
How you been, Andreas?
Pretty good. I made a couple videos. I'm gonna make you listen to them anyway. You probably already heard it. Send you my Donald Sutherland is dead. Donald Sutherland is dead, as you know. The greatest Canadian actor of his little genre. James, can you hear us yet?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Based. Okay.
Thanks for turning me on to Donald Sutherland.
We're gonna play Donald Sutherland real quick. Here on.
You were the watcher for Joss Whedon's first Buffy verse. Invasion of body snatchers, you made the best of the worst. From match to quote, your roles defined you. A talent so rare, one of a kind and true. Goodbye, Donald Sutherland. Donald Sutherland, your legacy will forever stand. Goodbye to the man who acted with grace. We'll miss your familiar face. Invasion of the body snatchers, you showed your might. With courage and wisdom, you brought us light. As President Snow, you chilled us all. In your role, you stood so tall. Goodbye, Donald Sutherland. Your legacy will forever stand. Goodbye to the man who acted with grace. We'll miss your familiar face. You taught us in Animal House, you fought through the desert. A star that shone brightly, now taken to heaven. With every scene, every line, you left your mark. A golden flame, a shining spark. As Mr. Bennett, you got humor and heart. From the start of your career, you played each part. In a merry people, your performance was grand. You touched our lives, took our hand. Goodbye, Donald Sutherland. Your legacy will forever stand. Goodbye to the man who acted with grace. We'll miss your familiar face.
Oh no, yeah. He's dead. Donald Sutherland's dead.
It's a shame.
He's a good actor, man. He was great in Buffy, and like he was in the Hunger Games. But anyway, good to see you both. How are you?
Still
Good.
alive.
So, you've seen both of these men probably, in a past life and in a past episode. This is Nowl, and this is James or Bava, bro. I already called you James once, so I feel like they
That's
know.
Got doxed, homie.
You got doxed, dude. Sorry, it was an accident. But I'm gonna make sure my microphone's even the right mic.
James is an acronym.
Yeah, sure. For like Jehovah, Allah, Ma'at, Epsilon. I don't know. We'll have to get Elohim. There you go. There you go. We did it.
There we go.
So we were gonna talk. I was like gonna do like a thing on like Deuteronomist and all that stuff, but then there's like it got postponed. So I figured we'd go back to Vedics, just like back to basics, right? But we could talk about anything, and you guys both had things that you were kind of interested in talking about. I know James, you're about to go on a retreat. So maybe talk about like kind of process that's going to go on there, and like
Yeah, so it's a little different from like a traditional retreat where you're basically it's usually pretty strict rules, and you're practicing like 8, 9, 12 hours a day. You know, for me, it's not exactly going to be that. It's kind of more spending time with my teacher and kind of other disciples and stuff like that. And you know, learning new things and then putting them to practice. So one sort of traditional way to kind of learn new practices is you're given a practice, and then they make you do it for hours, or in this case, since we're Westerners, you know, it's like you're practicing it every day for a week. So you come away from that with something that's you could say it's oral transmission. So it's not stuff that's written down. So there's no like fact checking or studying in that way. It's really, you know, you're receiving something directly from your teacher, and that's kind of like inner lineage thing, is like where you're getting stuff that's not written down in books and stuff like that. So
It's based.
So yeah.
And Noel, what have you been up to? I know you were playing with your son in the park.
Oh yeah, I took him to Kung Fu, and then he's playing in the park with the bubble gun. It was kind of an interesting dynamic, trying to teach him like, yeah, you should share, but like also just if somebody drops your toy, it's on you, not them. So you know, share wisely.
Legit.
Yeah, you know, I just do a lot of my stuff as family stuff, and just I've been on a weird gargoyle kick, just putting gargoyles everywhere. It's like turned into Dracula in my house.
Did you watch the show? Have you seen the cartoon?
Oh hell yeah! Back in the day, Gargoyles, the cartoon, dude, that's my bread and butter.
Oh, we should probably get you on with Frank Zero to talk about like the secret, like Vedic synchromysticism, or at least Gnostic mysticism in gargoyles. I got a book recently, which is like what I was going to talk about earlier tonight, which is with Dave Butler. It's called the In the Language of Adam. And so it's kind of interesting to me because, you know, we've talked before about like the differences between like the East and the West, but really the East and the West, there's like a Middle East, which is kind of a Middle West. And if you start to think about it, it's not actually that different. And there's like a thing that happens, which we talk about like monotheism, but even monotheism is kind of a Neoplatonic, new and emergent Atlanticist, you know, Western thing, Occidental thing that happens like in like later and in different. It's not Abrahamic. Like the Elohim is a plural word, and so in like the old pantheon of the Canaanites and of the Jews, they were worshiping with a family of gods, right, and many gods, and there's a lot more similar to like the Vedic understanding. So it seems interesting to me because there's a point where that's just like shut down, you know, and people are just killed over it. But
I would like to know more about the middle grounds, like Middle East. I have a friend who's Kurdish. He's helping me. We're like doing rehab work on my house so we can, you know, make it nicer. But he tells me stuff like he's like raised in the mountains in Iran and stuff. And so apparently, you know, like the Ahura Mazda, even the I get most of your viewers might already know this, but even the you know, academics accept that Ahura is another word for Asura, right? And then as you like, you know, watch more, if you watch more videos on like Zoroastrian esotericism and stuff, you'll see like in the Persian, the devas are like they call them devs. They're like bad spirits. So there's some kind of like football match going on with like red and blue, where like in India you have like the followers of the devas, like nobody there's following asuras, but in Persia you have people following the asuras. So you know,
and they call the demons are jinn, right?
Yeah, well, I would like to know more about the Persian religion, but according to him, the ancient history of Iran is that these people fled from Parashuram, who was like taking out the bad politicians.
John Burt wants to give respect to your mustache, and I did too. I mean, it's really classy.
Growing. I can't stop it. I'll put a stop to it soon.
It's pretty basic.
I'll try.
People don't know that that's like actually kind of a yogi look. That's like a thing. It goes back.
This is my disguise. I can pretend to be a yogi now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. Like the Persian, like Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, and a lot of those religions have dualism. And even though there's a pantheon, there's like 7 good and 7 evil, kind of a dynamic. It's a dualism where one is equivalent, like good is equivalent to evil, instead of like one supreme source that is like that has created a part of itself that's evil, right? It's more like the good and the evil have to like fight each other or integrate somehow. Really,
sometimes the evil think that they're the good. Like they from their perspective, they're thinking that this is the truth or something, but so that's what I was thinking with the Asura Mazda, that they're thinking the Devas are bad, whereas like in India, the Devas are the good guys who are devoted to Vishnu, and the Asuras are like rebels, who are trying to like be materialistic and enjoy materially. So I haven't gotten to the bottom of it, but apparently it's like a very ancient theme. Like you have like the Titans, right, in the Greek thing, and they're like the elder brothers,
right? Well, even like with the Canaanite pantheon, like the early Christians, like the Marcion and so the Pauline Christians, like Apostle Paul Christians, they thought that there was 2 gods, and they thought that there was one God who was like this angry, evil God who created things. And then there, like Yaldabaoth, and then there was this new God, like Yahweh was this new loving God that was like emergent afterwards. So even the early Christians thought that there was like some, kind of a different thing, like out of this kind of chaos, some sort of a loving like consciousness or something like happened, but wasn't like the origin of it. And like that's, I mean, not really what people think of as Christianity today.
Well, in the what do you call, what's the word, cosmogony? In the Vedic cosmogony, you have the Asuras being born from the backside of Brahma. So they're like, they're like his shadow. And then they try to eat him or have sex with him. So he like abandons that body and like takes a new body. And then there's like, they get divided. There's like the Rakshasas and the Yakshas. And in Sanskrit, it's very funny because Yaksh means to eat and Raksh means to protect or save. So there's like, there's a funny story that when they're born from the backside of Brahma, some wanted to eat the body after he abandoned it, and then the others wanted to save it for later. So it's like the Yaksha is like, let's eat it now. It's like, meat's back on the menu, boys. And then like the Rakshasas are like, no, this is not for eating. It was for saving. As you can, there's a lot of fun stories there in the Vedic thing. But yeah, I just don't know. I'm ignorant of the Zoroastrian ancient history, and I assume that everybody mostly misinterprets it. Like I'm just gonna say, like, being a scholar of the tradition usually means being a practitioner of the tradition, not just like an armchair philosopher. James is also, that's a bone that I noticed you pick on a lot. That people are just speculating; they don't actually practice.
Yeah, there's kind of a huge divide between like what comes out of somebody who's just reading books and may not actually believe this stuff, or think that there's sort of like materialist explanations that they just didn't have at the time, because we're so smart because we're modern, and they're old and primitive and dumb, which quite frankly is a dumb idea. In fact, the average Athenian who could be a grape farmer or something had superior memories to us now, And part of that is actually because we know how to read and write. So for somebody who doesn't know how to read and write, they'd have to read, 2,000 page poem, like, they memorize their holy books, or actually, like, um, so it's kind of like, you even hear Gurdjieff talking about this with his father, who used to recount the trying to think the tradition. I think it was I think it was Zoroastrian, but basically, it was an oral tradition, where everybody memorized this stuff. So
Mhm.
it doesn't really fit, so that's kind of modern stupidity, because they don't actually have any um interaction with living tradition, so
Do
they
you have
don't.
thoughts do you have thoughts on, like, the Gnostic side of it? Like, Yaldabaoth and things like that, like, is it all just, like, dead tr I mean, isn't it kind of Gnostic tradition kept alive through, like, secret orders or whatever? Like, how do you feel about that stuff, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's the case, and that kind of had to be the case. Unfortunately, when the Christians came along, and also the Romans. I mean, nobody's really particularly to blame alone. Like there's so many lines, like, all is ever as it was. Nobody is cast down, nobody is lifted up. All is ever as it was, which means that the same groups of people that were around back then are here now as well. So you had atheists that were in ancient Greece. You had what I call the pitchforks. The peasants who, like, don't like all this magic stuff, or don't like the demonstration of miracles, um, you know, or whatever. And then you have the state, which we won't go into, or the you know sort of appropriated, like, churches, for lack of a better word. Not that it's all Christian, um, but as far as the Gnostic thing, I kind of side with Plotinus, um, on that sort of thing. Um, who was contemporary with them, and Christianity was kind of just coming out. Um, so so a lot of this stuff, it exists in oral tradition. Um, and actually, Tibetans have kind of a really easy, useful way of explaining it, if I can remember right now. It's like there's the outward lineage, right? Which is all the preliminary learning, and then there's the secret lineage, which is kind of behind empowerment or initiation, and then there's the whispered lineage, which means, like, um, nobody knows that and it's not even spoken out loud, right? Like, it's whispered. It's that tight of a protection of whatever it is, practice or secrets. Like, secrets are not, there's this distrust of things that makes it seem like somebody keeping secrets is somebody doing something devious, when it's not. That's not the case. It's really that all the pitchforks are still around, right? So they've got grubby little hands, and they don't want to clean themselves. They don't want to make themselves worthy, but they want to grab everything, and they appropriate it to their own understanding, and that profanes um, the teachings, which if you understand that, you really do want secret traditions, right? You really do, because you don't want, like whoever you consider modern idiots to be, to take that and then add their own idiocy to it, like an idiote, right? The word idiot comes from idiote, which basically means somebody who has their own idea about things, right? It's not the worst thing in the world. You could be a libertine in that way, but um, I don't want that person's understanding. I want the stuff that's been untouched, untarnished, um, that the heavy hitters had in a greater age. So that's like the real value, is those things existed in their exact form at the times of these masters or prophets or whatever, old civilizations, if you will, right? Um, so to receive something like that is really heavy. That's like a really serious thing. Um, and there's also, it's also a benefit to you that you're protected in a way from some of these things, because there's consequence for coming to know these things, and it's no person doing these things to you. It doesn't make these things evil, which is kind of like I'm sorry, my AC is super loud. Like the Gnostics have this idea that the demiurge is against you and doesn't want you to reach gnosis, doesn't want you to become holy. So so it's basically, this dualism, or this sort of repairing the original sin of identifying yourself with the physical body, right? As soon as you start to go against that, there's a fight against you, and you start to fight against what they're calling the demiurge, right? That's the Gnostic idea about it, where all this is your enemy and trying to keep you in illusion. I don't think that's a very healthy mindset, but I empathize with it, because there's things that happen, like karmas, right? Um, so and this is just, you could say, for lack of better word, that's a Vedic word, right? But the idea is that, you know well, I guess we could go into that. So like so you have to take things wholesale too. If you just take this part and this part because you like this part and you don't believe in this part, you're not doing it right, right? So take reincarnation as a fact, right? You've behaved certain ways throughout every lifetime. And in some cases, you've acted against knowing this stuff, right? Having systems that would bring you to gnosis or samadhi or anything like that. And you've acted out of ignorance. All those things have piled up against you, or at least between you and the thing, right? Could be between you and your teacher, could be between you and the teachings, and so on. Could even be, I mean, it's also between you and family members, you know? So when you start to ask for this legitimate, real transmission, or to have the responsibility of knowing a real practice that does something, or what might be more applicable to most of the audience, or you guys, is like getting a prayer or a mantra that hasn't been said by anybody that's not initiated into it, right? So it's clean, it's pristine, it's untarnished. You pay a toll for that, in a way. So that looks like bad luck, right? That's the easiest Western way to say it. You get a lot of bad luck, right? Like I'm about to see my teacher, and so much crap has happened this week alone. I broke my little toe. I smashed it in my doorway.
Bro, it sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's worth it, you know? Like that's the right attitude. It's like, you know, F my toe. I'd rather, you know, my toe
I feel like sometimes I'll have something I really want to do, some like major, like that, and something like that happens to me, and then I'm forced to spend that energy healing that part of my body as like a metaphor for like working on myself more than getting to do the like wing growth part.
well, sometimes you get straight up blocked, right? So just a level, I'm an honest person. I've never like kept secrets. I don't like the secrecy thing. It like I guess when things started to happen to me that I couldn't really share with everybody, it felt like a burden because I couldn't tell anybody, you know. It's like the best analogy is like seeing an alien or something. Who's gonna believe you? You know, that shows up like a trauma. But what's it called? Yeah, sometimes I try to share these things with people, or like, you know, try to show them a teacher or something, and they just something crazy happens and they just cannot, you know. I had somebody that was trying to see one of my teachers, and a major storm came through and they couldn't drive there. So you know, and I had to explain to him that it's like you know, that was a kindness, you know, that like it's probably, you know, you gotta do some offerings or something before to like pay the toll. So there's a thing that's good to kind of have on your radar, is that's a utility of things like giving offerings, doing prostrations, you know, things like that. You're earning kind of merit with either between you and a deity, or between you and a teacher or a lineage. It's like taking refuge, right? And doing 10,000, 100,000 prostrations to the Buddha or something. That earns your way more safely to learn, you know, the tantras later on or something, if that's the path you're on, right? Which is like kind of something I've said to people before, like, I've never seen a Christian drop down and give prostrations to the crucifix, or, you know, pictures of saints or something like that. The only thing I've seen similar to that is Greek Orthodox.
Yeah, Catholics and Greeks do that. Yeah,
Catholics as well. Yeah,
Mormons think like idol worship, or like it's close to idol worships and stuff, so they don't even like use crosses. But yeah, the Catholics seem to like kiss their saint pictures and go to like idol saints in their temples.
I mean,
yeah,
I think it's extremely inauspicious if you can't have an eye experience. Like if like new people like don't look at any image. Like, no, it's like you can only have
you can have imagery. So like they have a lot of paintings.
You know what I mean, though? Like it's like, oh, this is forbidden. It's like, what are you talking about?
This
man?
It's not forbidden. It's like it's
in the box.
It's like you just have, if you have a bunch of paintings, instead of having like one idol that like people are like, this cross is like charged as a symbol,
a relic or something.
Yeah, a relic. And
teeth.
We can get into that though. I'm interested to talk about like magic and miracles and saints and relics, and you know, I think that like charging a turban is like a thing, right? Like,
but you know what I'm saying? Like it's inauspicious for like new people not to be able to use all of their senses to like get to the stage of meditation. Like, so you're like cutting people off, like you can't use your eyes. Like, like just
Yeah.
taco sauce in your eyes. And like, don't look at that. Oh, he's kissing the statue. Oh no.
Yeah, it's just like, I think the thing is, like, you've seen that movie Holy Mountain, like Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain. So there's like a scene in that, like, because it's all about like Christ, and he's goes through this like choice, like it's kind of like the alternative to the Last Temptation of Christ, because Christ is offered this like, do you choose fame? He's like, I choose fame, and he goes through this like alchemical ritual and everything. But the first thing is he gets to wake up into the future. So he's on the cross, he wakes up, and he's in a giant factory filled with statues, crucifixion statues of himself, giant mannequins with their arms all stretched out, because they're making all of these crosses to put in all these churches and to sell all these people that they can march around, like celebrating the death of him, you know, and like how his death is like more important than his life. And he like freaks out, right? And I feel like that's kind of fair. Like, a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about the death of Christ, which is probably somewhat important. Like, you're not saying you shouldn't think about that, but I feel like focusing on only that aspect of his life is really dangerous, right? And leads, like, if you look at this idea of Christ,
teacher, I mean, that's horrible. I would like to focus more on his teaching. Like, what did he say?
Yeah, I feel like the product of focusing on him dying for a thing is the Crusades. People killing and dying for a thing.
Yeah,
you know,
killing and dying for the thing. What about living and healing for the thing?
Right. Well, and you have to hear those stories for that. Yeah.
So I think that's all like kind of a confabulation, right? Which is like, it's like a false memory of things, right? So it's, I think tied up in a lot of these, you know, the modern, like what we see modernly is a lot of infighting between groups, right? So, you know, like the monotheism thing, well, not to get off topic, but
I think it's interesting though. I do. Go ahead.
Yeah, a better word, right? They say idol worship.
I call it Yahweh monolatry, but yeah, sorry.
Well, the theologians are using the word icon nowadays because the word idol has become bastardized to the point where you can't even have an image. It's like, well, so I was saying maybe people don't know the word inauspicious means like unfortunate or like not a good sign. Like, it's not a good sign if like new people come to try to work on their spirit and find God, and then they're like stopped from using like the only tools they have, like their senses, to start to approach something like an internal cognition.
I agree with that.
You can't use your senses to like worship God. What is that?
I would push that
good.
like
not a good sign.
The Catholics do a good thing there with the Jesuits, because they have the Ignatian method, and the Ignatian method is to use all of your imaginary senses. So it's focused on hearing, you know, the steps of Christ, smelling the barn that, you know, Jesus is born in the cave, right? All of it's kind of a matrix thing, like to imagine all of the aspects of it. So there is a focus there with like the Occidental esoterics, but I don't know. I think the idea of idol is interesting because you look at like the East using like the swastika, and then it's charged with energy, right? Like it has power to it. Like people use it for love, and then it can be inverted, right? So there's something in the West. So there's something about idols or icons that, you know, sigils, right? Like the same reason branding works for corporations, that like AOL like does what it does, right?
Don't confuse the two, because you have occult symbology, right? Those are actually living things, right? If you're using them properly and treating them properly, the occult symbols are living things, which is why you shouldn't use them for your album cover. You shouldn't be getting tattoos of them. You shouldn't be putting them on your asan or your cushion. So you're putting your ass on, you know, these symbols. You know, I had a cushion, and my teacher said something. He's like, "You're putting your ass on the Om symbol," and I was like, "Oh man!" So I had to take the
good observation.
Yeah,
I don't wear any like stuff like that when I'm doing like prostrations. Like I'm not gonna like wear like a
yeah,
Christian t-shirt and like bow and like smash like
yeah.
my body on. You know, it
It's
doesn't
like
make any sense.
getting like
Get yourself.
yeah, like chakra tattoos on your forearm. It's like, are you gonna like get forearm kundalini? Like,
Like when you flick the bean, then it you know makes depletes the
yeah,
chakra. What do you
yeah. Actually, I'll tell this story. I had maybe it's a little crude, but I had a crush on this girl, and so there was I went to massage school, and there's a sauna there, which is fun. But you know, I sat there talking to this girl for like an hour, and I was like, man, you know, she's beautiful. And so we're talking, and then she gets up and leaves, and she's got a huge tattoo of the Buddha on her low back. And I'm like, man, that's like a no-go, you know? Like, why would you put it there?
You don't want him staring at you.
No, that's like instant guilt. Like I'm like, I couldn't even perform right, you know, like where to go, you know, like
how come all these men can't no I don't never mind.
it's like, and would you want, like, if that's a living symbol, would you want him to like come with you to the bathroom every time, you know? It's not
It's like her dog in the apartment, right?
All
yeah.
the people watching right now with Buddhas on their ass, they're gonna draw.
I'm sorry.
Just-
Yeah, you
No,
got
but I heard somewhere like in Thailand they only get a tattoo if a monk does it for them because your blood's like flowing through the symbol and like it's a living symbol and
Yeah.
like it's changing you. I would never even let a monk honestly give me a tattoo. I would only give myself a tattoo or I would not even do that. I don't
yeah,
know.
I know somebody that got one of the symbols from the Goetia tattooed on his palm, and he's still struggling with health issues, but somebody kind of had to do something for him. But
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
stuff that could be done, like some magic that could be done to heal you with the tattoo, but only by some expert. So yeah, that's the problem is like distinguishing between experts and like charlatans. There's just going to be more charlatans than experts. It's just like the more you want to get towards the real thing, like the more sacrifice, the more weeding out, like the more you have to work on yourself just to like perceive what is authentic. Like you can't expect to like you could get lucky and run into like the real thing straight off the bat, but you might not even know what to do with it, or you wouldn't even fully realize how real it really is. You would just be like in the presence of the thing and be like a mosquito like biting the guru, you know.
yeah, or you know, it's a different. You might have, you know, achieved something in a previous life, and your next life it descends upon you, but like, you know, you've got you know, you grew up as a pothead or something, and like, you know, who knows what your new brain is going to do with that, you know?
The Saint Augustine believed in reincarnation, right? And like all the ancient Jews believed in reincarnation. They believed in the Gilgul Nishamat, which is like 613 incarnations that you're supposed to go through, or like parts of you, even like because there's like parts of you that go through it, and like your family, like it's a little bit more complicated, I think. You know,
Yeah.
One of the obstacles I experienced. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, just quickly, just a quick statement. One of the obstacles I experienced that could be common is I found like an advanced guru at a very young age. So like the disparity between my ability to receive or extract or to be of assistance was limited, and the person passed on after, you know, within 10 years. So it's not like there's all kinds of obstacles that could happen, and I think one of the keys is persistence, and then like not fully trusting one's own sincerity. Like I may not be even sincere enough as I want to be to be worthy to receive the thing, and then to like work on one's sincerity. Like if I am not sincere enough to deserve it, can God or the servants of God come and help me to get closer, like, and carry my sincerity for me while I work on it? But like one should always perceive some lack in oneself instead of being so like cocksure about like their own, like, oh, I'm spiritual, or like it's like everybody's a spirit. Like You know, if like somebody's like, this person's deep, it's like everybody's deep, but like, what are they doing with it? You
What do
know?
you guys think about Aaron's line here?
No, because they also have to go to the grocery store to get food.
Yeah.
It's not like they hunt, you know.
Right.
Well, I generally they don't charge.
Dig up their own
It's my
tubers or
experience,
something.
they don't charge.
Like, why would you? I don't know. It's interesting because like you have all these yoga bros, which is kind of what I was joking about with my name before, but you know, they're trying. It's like, you know, I am a capitalist, but like this sort of capitalizing on spirituality thing, trying to monetize spirituality is really toxic. And it's usually the first thing that our American minds go to. So like even somebody who's like pretty sincere, and, you know, otherwise pretty respectful of things, they may like, you know, um, they may like write their own course on how to use like, you know, sacred ganja or something, right? And I noticed in the comments, it's okay if you smoke or something. There's a holy way to do it. You know,
I said
whatever.
worse. I digress,
Sorry,
but you
you
know,
heard
don't
it.
die from smoking. It's a horrible death of 1,000 drownings. Don't do it. Stop before it's too late.
Yeah,
I've
vape
seen
instead.
so many people on ventilators and hooked up to oxygen tubes and suffering
Yeah.
tremendously from
Yeah.
that. That is a bad way
Drink
to
some
go out.
bong instead.
Yeah. Nowl
Bad way
works.
to go out.
Nowl works with people that are dying all the time, and so it
I'm
kind
in
of
a hospital. I work mostly with neuro, and I do work with plastic surgeries and stuff. But like, yeah, like dying from smoking is such a shit way to go. Alcoholism is probably just as bad. Like your belly explodes, like you're pregnant, but it just keeps going like until you like freaking legs fill up with fluid and you like drown in your own body. It's like horrible. You don't want to die from smoking or alcoholism.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's
honestly,
okay, I guess, if you smoke, but maybe not.
if you don't want to die that way,
I'm not trying. We're not judging.
probably
James,
wanna quit.
James isn't judging. We're not judging. Just I'm warning though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I'm
guilty. I'd probably have more hairs up top if
them's the breaks, you know.
yeah, and honestly, like, actually, it's a stand-in for like feeling Shakti and stuff like that. I didn't get away from it, you know. I still enjoy it sometimes, but you know, it's a placebo. It's not the real thing, you know. Like the things that you're feeling from that, they're a lesser reflection of other things that you can feel. Actually, interestingly, the same combinations in somebody's birth chart that would indicate that they abuse drugs or that they'll have an addiction to drugs actually shows a high capacity for I guess the tantras, you know, like experiencing Shakti, because there's like it seems the same to the soul, right? If you've experienced sort of spiritual bliss, which is not, it's a more specific thing than the way people use these words, but if you recognize that in something, but you don't have the real thing to judge it against, you fall for the illusion of the thing, and you can get sucked pretty deeply into it and say, oh, this is a sacred thing, this is, you know, or maybe not even sacred, you just love the way you feel and it gives you this ecstasy. But well, one, you're spending yourself, right? So it's taking from something else to give you that sensation. Two, it diminishes over time, so you have to increase the dose. This is like the curse of the shaman, right? That eventually you burn out all the channels that you're prying wide open by borrowing these states from plants, right? So like you're stealing not only from yourself, like your longevity, and your capacity to naturally enter these states, but you're also stealing from the plant itself, right? So you have your own DMT, for example, right? If you're taking a plant's DMT away from it so you can borrow it for 20 minutes, do the businessman's trip, you're stealing from something that has no choice in it. and you have no idea if that plant was in bliss in its own existence there, and you took it, right? And like, I think there's different grades of that, right? So like plants seem like pretty fair game as far as like, you know, human providence. We can cut down trees and it's not so disturbing, right? But like, you should know what you're doing to yourself mostly, and you can still make the choice at that time. It's like tobacco is a sacred substance. The Native Americans used to not, I don't think they even inhaled, or they understood that it can give you sickness, right? The tars can give you sickness. So it's with moderation, so.
Well, I think one of the points is that not whether or not the one is like bad or anything, or it's just that when you have a tradition that uses plants, then like you were saying before, you want to include the fullness of that tradition, like giving honor in the approach and stuff. Like, I don't recommend plants. I don't use plants. I haven't done anything since high school, and I'm like 40 now, so I'm like straight edge as hell. But if I was to conceive of such a thing, like the approach is necessary to make the advancement. It's not like, like I would suppose that the Native Americans would approach the plant with reverence, not just like, oh, give me that,
Well, yeah, and
the barstow near the edge of the desert so that the drugs can take hold.
Well, there's also uses for them. It's like, unfortunately, if you did come across like a Siberian shaman or something, and they could tell that you've partaken, they'll never share with you, so you kind of you burned your own ticket to like experience like the actual, like, it's like there's like levels to it too, and like this is like alchemical too, right? Like there's it's like plant medicines. You got like plant stones, you got spagyrics, and in any case, the way like shamanism works is they do something to it so it's more powerful. So it actually becomes like a spiritual substance.
Have you met any Siberian shamans, Andreas?
Siberian shamans? No.
Did you burn your bridges with the Siberian shamans yet?
Have I met Siberian shamans, or have I read books by them? What was the question exactly?
No, I'm just goofing.
Okay.
I was saying, did you meet any Siberian shamans, or did you burn your bridges?
Oh, okay. No, I have actually.
I'm ignorant of the Siberian shamans. I only had a Siberian girlfriend, but she was cool. But
I have actually met a Siberian shaman. Fun fact.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Oh, it's the very like
more increases. Desire to know more increases.
It's a guy who lives in San Bruno. Actually, like we could probably meet him again sometime. It'd probably be worth it.
The Siberian shaman.
Yeah, it's from Novosibirsk, I think. But I don't know. I was thinking just like it's interesting the idea, like it's interesting you wouldn't steal DMT. That's like it's like that should be the next PSA.
Well, yeah, and that being said, I'm guilty too. But
dude, somebody stole my plant in high school, man. God damn it.
I actually did I did ayahuasca with Mormons in Salt Lake City. It was pretty fun.
I wonder how they felt about that. Yeah.
Oh, they were actually ex-Mormons, and this was like their new thing. Mormons are always like, they're like the Canadians of Christianity. They're all the kindest people.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, just like very pure, pristine people. I like that about Christianity. It's like you get some really naturally pure people, and there's like natural virtue to the human animal with like a little bit of temperance and clean mind and clean behavior, and that's like the baseline attainment that anybody can make.
They do seem like the most open to like Gnosticism. It seems like a compounding of all, or a concoction of all kinds of Gnosticism. Like there's all of the Gnosticism they could get, really, and they're open to more of it, right? That seems kind of interesting to me. So it's kind of like, it's actually like the surmising of all heresy that they could come up with. Really, I like that a lot.
So it's
And
like Vedic Mormonism.
So like that's the thing. Vedic Mormonism would be okay. It wouldn't be okay if you're a Pentecostal or a Lutheran or anything else. But Mormonism would be like, yeah, okay, we could see that because before the flood, all was one, and they're not really pushing, like they already believe in like a godhead, so they're polytheistic is kind of technically.
Well, it's like compartmentalized. That's the thing
Yeah.
where people don't understand the Veda. There's one God.
Yeah. Well, the same
God
thing.
has many parts.
This is like
It all
Greek
works.
theurgy as well. This is like you know, Platonism, the what's the word, the cosmology of Platonism. You can read about it. Yeah, okay. So, you know, it's like there actually is no division between polytheism and monotheism. And the best example you could read about that, actually the most succinct, read the Wikipedia page on Proclus and read about the one. Proclus is the one, which is a Platonic idea. It's actually pre-Platonic, I think. But yeah, if you go down, it talks about the Henads. Well, I'd go back, but yeah, so this is great right here. It's very succinct. But
From right here, you want me to start reading, or where?
So this is good. Actually, if you go down a little bit, I just want to see something. See if he's talking about the Henads there. Yeah, so that's good. So the basic idea is that the one, and maybe Nowl can relate this to Vishnu, but there's the one, which is it's like the one not one, right? So there has to be a sort of trick of language here, because it's like it's non-participating, and it's like indivisible, but we call it the one, and it partakes of existing but also not existing. It gets really confusing. I don't think I can do a good job explaining it, but there's a reason for that, because it's the unintelligible world, right? So you have the intelligible gods, which are the terrestrial gods, right? And then you have the unintelligible gods. So it implies a limit of human reasoning, right? Of human cognition. Your human mind is not able to grasp the entirety of God's existence, right? Or to, you know, it just exhausts language.
Well, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, your whole conception of the infinite is in my negligible portion. He tells Arjuna, after he shows Arjuna the whole infinite, he says, actually, this is my negligible portion. So even if the infinite is God's negligible portion, then this is the closest we can come to like what is unknowable. Like you're touching the unknowable. Like when you think you've seen everything, like God shows himself to you in darshana, and then he says, actually, what you see of me is my negligible portion.
Right.
So another thing is, to connect it back to the Vedic thing here, is if you look at the Upanishads, there's various statements, like for example, just the word Brahman, right? It comes from the verbal root bri, means to increase, right? Yasmach, it's like Sandilya Upanishad or something. Yasmach brihati, brin hayati chasarvam, right? Because he increases and caused everything to increase, right? Tasmad uchyate param brahmeti. Thus he is known as the supreme Brahman, right? Because Brahman means to increase, right? So he's one, but he becomes many. Actually, it says that in another place. I think Brihadaranyaka Upanishad or like Taittiriya Upanishad. It says Brahma Vaidam Agra Asit. Brahma, the absolute, was alone in the beginning, right? But so kamayata bahusyam prajayeti, that he desired, may I be many, may I grow forth, right? Bahusyam, may I be many, right?
Mm.
So therefore he became prajaya. He's the one he's the Prajapati. He creates progeny, right?
So
So
that's right.
so he becomes many. He's one, but he becomes many, right? He enters into all those things. So he enters into the sentient and the insentient, the moving and the non-moving. He enters into the knowable and into the unknowable, right? That's Bri. Bri means to expand, right? So Brahman is like the greatest expanse, like the absolute, right? But really it means to expand, you know. So I don't really see like a problem, like you're saying. There's actually, like you said, there's no real problem between the monotheism and polytheism. It's just that people have like taken up various portions of space, just like houses. Like they're like houses in like a big sky. You know,
Well,
they're just taking up enclosing little portions of space and thinking we are, you know, here and all that. You know.
Yeah, it's the pitchforks again. You know, like they're
Yeah,
like,
we gotta
oh,
get past that.
this isn't my, you know, this isn't my God. This isn't what we worship in my country or something. And, you know, and it's like there's no room for, you know, this town ain't big enough for the two of us. And, you know, they fight and all that stuff. But, you know, it's like, look, if you look around, there's multiplicity, you know. Like if you look at the world, it's only a few qualities that are encompassed in these henads that is infinitely divided, right? So if there is one God, you know, ultimately we should probably all look the same, but we don't, and we have different temperaments and everything. So this is the necessity for the for, you know, astrology, right? It's the science of explaining, like tracking these qualities based on the spheres, right? Which is the basis of reality. We know from looking in space. It just ends up being spheres and clouds, whatever. So yeah, it's these qualities come from the henads eventually, right? So
Can you define henads for the audience? What do you mean henad?
So henads, I believe there's 8 in number, but henads, the word literally means the ones. So it's like a multiple of the monad, right? So
This is that kind of fractaling outward of the of like the original pattern or something.
exactly.
Like you have like in the Vedic, you have like the 12 adityas. They're like solar deities, right? And then you have like 11 rudras, and you have like what do you have? There's a couple more, right? You have like Ashvins.
Right? RGC just gifted 2 memberships. Thanks, RGC. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
That's cool. I don't even
have
the
8 Vasus, the Ashvins, which are twins, and then you have the 11 Rudras and the 12 Adityas, right?
Yeah.
So these are like kind of like, but they're all like the word Indra, for example. Like people are like, oh, Indra is like the old god. Indra is the original god of the Veda. It's like Indra means leader. So so it's actually like a borrowed title from God. Like the Indra could be any entity that is the leader. It doesn't have to specifically and only refer to Magavan, the storm god. You know, it's like a godhead, and that's like that's the thing. I think it goes back to what you were saying before about like the non-practitioner has difficulty entering into, the complex textual variety that exists. Like if you don't practice, you're not going to understand what you're reading very well. But I would also make the counter argument: if you practice something, it's good. But if you also don't study, you're not going to be like, it'll be very hard to identify what is authentic and what is inauthentic. Because you'll just be at the whims of your karma, essentially. So studying is actually one of the things you can do to kind of improve your knowledge, and your ability to approach things, to be able to suss out what is the substance, the actual, what is form and what is substance,
Right. And these things can quickly become pedantic. It's like, why do you need to know this stuff?
It can.
To write a
yeah.
paper or something, that's cool, but it's like, if you want to understand why your relationships with certain figures in your life doesn't go well, if you can relate that back to a deity that you may not have a good relationship with, well, here comes the karma and the tools of worshiping icons, right? And it may not be your Ishta Devata or your whoever you're the god of your heart, the one that you want darshan with. It may actually just be one that you have a malefic relationship with in your birth chart, but you want to alleviate that, that's when it becomes useful. But if you don't practice, I mean, who cares, or if you're going to use this stuff to like make up your own thing or something, it's like, good luck, bro. Like, this stuff is
start new religions. Yeah, it's sort of
yeah,
we don't understand what we have to
way to
begin
go.
with. People like trying to reinvent the wheel.
Just what we need, a
third wheel. We need a third wheel.
Yeah, more Elrons every month. That's what we need.
What do you guys think about, like, so is the soul's eternal? What do you think about, is it like we have one soul, or is it a bunch of soul that are like bubbles of souls? Like how are we all, what are soul? What is soul?
So I'll do a couple things. And then I want to hear what Nowl says. Somebody asked in the comment section what we think about karma if it's tit for tat, which means like,
blood atonement.
Yeah, that like, it's like the idea of instant karma, which doesn't really exist. We could talk about it with like reincarnation, right? Reincarnation is not so clean. Like, it's not like maybe a cool movie would make it seem, where, you look the same every lifetime. Keanu Reeves is either a vampire or reincarnated or something, and we know because they look the same. It's not exactly that way. And in fact, like, for some people or practitioners that have experiences where they think they're some great reincarnated master or something, one, they're probably not. Two, it doesn't mean that they didn't have some sort of memory or sensation regarding.
Stop gaslighting me. I'm clearly Cleopatra. Like, we all know it's okay.
I literally had a girlfriend who thought she was Cleopatra. I was like, you got to be kidding me,
bro. We're all Cleopatra. We're all Cleopatra.
It's funny because Crowley talks
about Akhenaten, apparently.
so Crowley talks about this in Magic Without Tears, and he specifically uses the example of Cleopatra to the person he's writing to, who we're supposed to not know who it is, but I think it was Jane Wolfe, but it was either Jane Wolfe or Jean Foster. I think it was Jane Wolfe, but so he says, like, oh, how great, I must have been Cleopatra and all this stuff. So there must be like droves of women that wished they were Cleopatra. But let's say somebody does have some sort of memory of Cleopatra, what's more likely is that they were probably either close, or I don't know if Cleopatra taught or anything, but they'd be like a disciple of them, you know. And
I
then
think there's a lot of delusion. There's so much self-delusion. That's part of the sickness, is actually you got to overcome that, thinking that I'm such a special. Like, everyone has to discover what's special about them. We don't like, or do something special. Don't just think you're special. Do something special.
yeah,
You always like want this free stuff with like the 80s. It's like get a coupon, like come to Pizza Hut. It's happy hour. We're gonna get like extra slices here.
But at the very beginning, so or like soul is Atman. Would you say like
Oh, okay. No, I can just tell you what the technical stuff is. So
yeah, like was
basically,
it created or does it always?
it is in a state of what's called avidya, means ignorance. And that, so avidya, ignorance, has no beginning. So that is called anadi. So everywhere you look in the Vedic scriptures, you're going to see, and scriptures in pursuance of the Vedic version, like the Shastras, like Dharma Shastra, etc., you're going to see that the Atman has avidya, which is anadi. It is, adi means beginning, anadi means no beginning. So the avidya means ignorance, not vidya. It's really funny. Remember, there's that like shampoo. Remember that like fancy shampoo that all the girls wanted, a Veda, and they're saying, "Oh, it comes from the Vedas." I'm sorry if there's any if you have any people who worked for a Veda on here, but the word Aveda would literally mean ignorance. Like, you named your shampoo company Ignorance, and you were claiming to follow the Veda, and you made it Aveda, like not Veda. Anyway, so avidya, ignorance, has no beginning, but it has an end. So it's sa anta. So avidya is anadi, no beginning. It has an end, sa anta. Whereas vidya, or knowledge, has a beginning. That is called, it is sa'adi, but it has no end. That is ananta. So liberation has no end, but our ignorance has no beginning. So that's been further analyzed in various tantric or pancharatric scriptures, that the ignorance that we experienced in an immemorial time is essentially we were merged in the body of God in Laya. So Laya is like a latent state being merged as a potency, right? So in the Vedic perspective, the omnipotent has potency, and this kind of addresses the polytheistic question, is that the potencies are actually people, or like living entities that are serving the omnipotent, because the omnipotent is so attractive, so they automatically are like giving their hearts to the all potent one, right? So we are Shakti, or potency. Like, the living entity is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Anya Prakriti, another type of Prakriti. Prakriti again here means I don't know, like a matter. It's not a matter, but like a substance. A Prakriti usually means material nature, but the living entity is another substance. It's not God. It's a substance sort of between matter and spirit, but it's its own specific Shakti, and that it has essentially no beginning and no end, right? So it's eternal, but the idea of eternal again deals with time. So we're
Are there only
outside of
three?
time, like before causation, you're existing before. You're not like involved in the causal process.
We gotta stop for a second because I want to keep going.
Is that
but
too much?
no, well, okay, but there's three. Are there three? Yeah, it is. But like, are there three levels then? There's like spirit and then matter, and you're saying Prakriti.
Generally, there's like a general category. Well, they say earth. Earth is like earth, water, and fire. So like fire is God, water is like the living entity, and earth is like the material nature.
Three is interesting because like that's a like LDS thing, right? Like terrestrial, and celestial.
Right. So
is that
yeah, so
you're saying the three planes?
Yeah, you also see that in the Vedas. You'll see like what is Bhautika or Bhumika, and then you see what is Antariksha, and then you see what is Daivam, in the DV in the sky, right?
Oh,
so it's
okay.
like living entities of like the three categories. But like you could be, like we're terrestrially bound here, but yeah.
You're not saying the heavens, right?
Well, the heavens would be there's different levels of the heavens, of course, but like you want to get like really old with the three, you're talking about like the solar orb, which is like the heaven, and then you're talking about like an intermediate space of like ghosts and like fairies and stuff, and then you have like your terrestrial beings here, so they have the Bhuvar, and Swa, right? Swa is like the heaven or the self, or the ultimate self, or like the solar deity, like Vishnu. right?
Thanks, John, for the 10. Two great guests for sure. This is really interesting. I'm learning. Thanks, y'all.
But yeah, basically in the Vedic thing, soul no beginning, it's merged, which is called Laya. It's merged into Vishnu, right? It's ejected due to the desire of Vishnu, born from tapas, which is heat, which is another actually. So Vishnu's desire is tapas, like his fiery. So it's kind of like the seminal principle, like the seminal principle is like burning. It wants to like go outward. So again, Brahman is moving outward. It's expanding. It's like a fiery like energy. So one of the ways that people do practice is to like restrain their energy, and that like builds up like a heat. So you're like going through austerity or tapas, But yeah, so through tapas, Bhagawan or Ishwara creates, the Brahman becomes many, right?
So you're saying, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's it. I'm just saying it has no beginning, it has no end, but ignorance has no beginning, but it has an end. Knowledge has a beginning, but has no end. That's what I'm saying.
And so this is happening outside.
And that's happening within the Atman.
Which is outside of...
We're like in a cauldron of souls here, essentially.
Right.
So the Greek thing, Plato actually kind of, I think he kind of like discusses... he never really lands on if there is a soul or not, but that's what you're still talking about, right?
Well, Atma is like a self. I don't know if the word soul. Atma is a reflexive pronoun. You're like referring to I.
Yeah. So
consciousness. I don't know what the Christians mean by soul. I haven't studied Christian theology very deeply. I mean, I've taken a couple classes, but I would rather just listen.
So I would say really quickly, like at least with the Mormons, there's an idea that, and similarly, that souls there's a universal singularity, but then there are individual souls that are all kind of like swirling around, like you said, that have always existed, or like you say before, basically exactly that. And so it's not that God even created them. Right. It just gives them the opportunity to live in this world, kind of a thing.
Yeah, they're like manifested out of his being or body. Like there's no difference between God and his body,
Yeah, but it's not like manifested. It's kind of not that he didn't create them because they've always existed, right?
They're almost like initiated, or like they're like started, not started, but they're awakened. They're awakened. Actually, it says they're awakened.
Yeah, so that's exactly the same thing.
Consciousness of like no variety. Like
that's exactly the same thing. And then the idea is that the souls have to migrate through life, and then they become gods, essentially, or like
but there are also a class of entities who are eternally serving God who do not go through this process.
Right. So that's interesting. That's like the classification of like an angel, right? To use the like Judeo-Christian thing, those are not human souls. Like they're like they don't need to evolve. They're already, like technically the experience of them is that that they self-identify with a god, or if they're in the chain of a certain god, then they just look like that god. Like there's no separation. But if you kind of take like the Judeo-Christian angels, those are, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to nerve-wracking to speak about them because it's not like a human thing where humans, a human soul, so to speak, is a knower. So the currency for the human soul is to come to know things. That's the reason why gnosis, right, is the single highest to its nth degree. It is the single highest experience within yourself that a human soul can have, which is why that's of the utmost importance in the spiritual path, is to achieve gnosis or samadhi, is the Vedic word for it. And actually, they do a great job in Hinduism of explaining the different levels. There's many different types of samadhi. It's not necessarily one for one with gnosis.
I think the word jnana is pretty close to gnosis. It's actually accepted cognate by academics. Jnana is knowledge, right? To attain knowledge, but they mean here true knowledge, like knowledge of the self and of God and those things.
Yeah. So gnosis is not like what what's his name?
Jnana also means consciousness, so it's like consciousness is knowledge, like the act of knowing. You know, like you are, yeah, but like knowing with a capital K. You know,
So
like, yeah.
right, and that's like the primary knowledge is to have knowledge of the self, and then the next major one is to have knowledge of God, which is henosis, right? But I mean, like, you know, when we talk about these things, we should kind of explain the scale of them a little bit. It's not something that, you know, like if you think you've experienced it, you probably have not. That's not to like chop you down a peg or something, but this is like you know, when we talk about gnosis, we're talking about um, samadhi, um, uh, like avichar samadhi, right? Um, so like it's not like necessarily a produced state. It's something that kind of descends upon you. You set the conditions, and it comes upon you. But it's not a slight experience. It's not like, oh, I had gnosis of you know, history today in class. You know, I know it now. That's, you know, or you know, I had a little gnosis today. That's
It's
not
like
it.
a muscle we've never used. Like you have no clue about it. Like it's there. There's more to us than we know.
Right.
Like
And
we have not awakened that aspect. Like we
right.
are fully ignorant of that until we know what it is, and then we realize, oh, everything that I thought was important, that is not important.
Right. And something for the audience, if you or just whoever, um the first, so the book, the Alcibiades, by Plato, where Socrates is talking to Alcibiades, and he wants to go, basically go to the council and tell them his ideas about war, you know, like what they should do. And he's an 18-year-old boy, right? And Socrates stops him and says, like, you know, why do you, you know, what makes you think that you know this subject to where you can teach old men this subject that they have dedicated their lives to? And he takes them through this, you know, this line of questioning where Alcibiades basically admits, like, um, I guess I don't know these things. And that's the first step, right? That is the first step of becoming a good student, is realizing that you do not know these things. You have ideas about them, and all of them are probably wrong, right? And that's important and actually liberating to realize, because then, you know, it's like the empty cup analogy. You're not full of your own crap, you know? You can actually receive something. And then there's conditions for the cup, you know, who's fit to receive and everything. But don't uh you know, don't believe your own brand, you know? Don't just be like huffing your own brand and saying like, I know all this stuff, right? Because you probably don't. Like if you haven't had uh, an experience that has completely wiped your mind for days at a time, where you don't even think about eating, you don't sleep, you know, um, like, you know, all these symptoms, then you probably haven't touched on the real stuff. And those can be like pretty um like introductory experiences for people. But there's no ceiling to this subject, you know. There's really no, like, I don't think it ever ends, which is like why for real, like, well, I won't speak for all traditions, but for many of them, they start with gnosis. Um, so you can't really engage in higher practice until you achieve samadhi and you solidify it, meaning you have some sort of ability. It doesn't come and go. You have some ability to go into it. Then you can actually do things. And I actually don't think, you know, there's a lot of practices that are kind of in the public now that people, they do only that, and they don't end up achieving anything, you know. Like you know, like you see a lot of that in the OTO, for example, and a lot of Western groups. And you know, some of them are great people, you know, and could be great practitioners and everything, and they could achieve little things, but it's not really what those tools are for, you know.
Well, what's for taking OTO as a lead here? What's an example of a misconception that just lingers in the OTO community? Like, could you give us some of like the major features of that? Because I think this is a subject that I've been learning about. You've helped me to understand more about OTO, but that a lot of people they have like baked in almost, or it's been baked in before them, and that's what they're receiving regarding OTO. But these kind of like misconceptions.
Yeah.
What's like legitimate and illegitimate? Like what's some of the problems that have arisen, and like what's the correct?
Oh. Well, like,
even if you just pick out a couple, like that will be helpful.
Oh yeah, for sure. So so first I'd say this idea that it's like supposed to be dark. And so like OTO is it's a post-Masonic order that was handed to Crowley. So it's a Masonic order. It existed before Crowley, so it's not exactly it's just a fraternity, right? It's, you know, people kind of step into these things expecting some sort of like dark stuff or whatever, or they kind of attribute that, you know, they're looking for dark things or whatever, and they think this is it. Crowley didn't help with that, although it's not a proper understanding of everything. So it kind of ruins the company a bit, you know. So there's that. And then
what do you mean they're searching for dark things? Like they're like, oh, I want to be part of something evil, or like, but then they're like how do you say it? It's becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy or something. Like they're like looking for evil, and then therefore they bring evil to it and like turn it evil, like when it's not original. Is that what you mean? Something like that? Or
right, they bring a very low mindset to it.
Like weak students, or like they're just injecting their own like misconception, and they're like dark fantasy, like, oh, I'm gonna worship, like, hail Satan, I'm doing something, I'm gonna join the OTO. like
particularly that that's not like a feature of it. And that's, you know, I don't want to present it as though like that's what I represent or something.
Right, but like, do you think the Typhonian order? Do you think the Typhonian order is like like, is the Typhonian order better than the OTO? Like, is that the way to say it? I don't know if the word "better" is right, but
no. So like, so in the OTO, the OTO is basically a storehouse for a particular secret that people basically know now, you know. I think it's like a pastime for people who are suspicious of things to expose orders, you know. So like, you know, you get people publishing, you know, all the information and whatnot, and like it's like a big no-no. Uh what's his name? The guy who published the Golden Dawn manual, he did that. I can't think of his name right now. But he's the guy who did the middle pillar. He kind of put that together, and he was Crowley's secretary. So he saw Crowley publishing a bunch of stuff, and he thought it wasn't Mathers. He thought that was like the way to go. That was like what you do. But Israel Regardi, that's his name. So it's kind of like those are oath breakers, right? You know, like so.
Don't break the oath.
Yeah. Great album cover. But yeah, so the oath is with you and God. It's with you and it's like for yourself, right? You can make an oath right now if you want to quit something in your devotional. Say to your God that I will do this. You can touch your hand to the ground and say, you know, I will succeed in this, you know, quitting smoking cigarettes. Or if not, may ill become, you know, happen to me. May I have bad luck or something. What that does is it binds you to a goal, a job that you're doing, so you don't fail at it, right? So it's a tool, it's a benefit, right? And that's kind of what initiation is like, binding yourself to a goal.
That seems like the Deva Asura thing, right? Because we're talking about like you have a choice. I don't know, because it could be exorcisms of demons and fasting and kind of. Maybe I'm wrong here. Is that not?
Well,
exactly
one thing about the Asuras and the Devas is they're cosmic principles that pervade reality. So it's not like you can kill lust, because then it would end for everybody. Like you can sort of create a relationship of denial, or like not denial, I guess. English,
So I like it this
English
way.
words are so problematic. You can bring it under control and use it for
restraint
something. Well, yama, yeah, like pranayama. Well, in yoga, things can't even arise. Like once you attain samadhi, they can't even appear, because you're experiencing something that's more real.
You can bake seeds.
The world of the senses. No, they don't. They're like nothing burgers. Like
if you bake a seed, it won't sprout.
Yeah, that analogy has been given. Yeah, you know your stuff.
Yeah, baked seed.
Yeah, you fry those seeds are samskaras or bijas, seeds of karma. Like, yeah, they can't really fructify because there's a stronger seed in place that is causing cessation of all of those things. There's a nirodha, the word is vritti nirodha, in place. Yoga is defined as the cessation of the modification of the thinking principle. It means, you know, false cognition. It doesn't mean the cessation of experience. It just means of an uncontrolled mind, you know, because otherwise, if the mind is uncontrolled, it looks like the self. But once you bring the mind under control, then you realize there's something harder than the mind. And then that thing is actually so hard that it'll make the world of the senses look weak. Like the objects of the senses will look soft compared to like what is great in the self, you know. I promise you, if you ever go all the way in meditation and you see yourself, you'll be like, wow, the world of the senses is much less real. Those things that all the material scientists are like pointing to, like that meme, like, oh, look at that, oh, you know, look at the senses. Yeah. It's like, no, concrete is much weaker than the self. Like the concrete is not, it's soft. Like the self is like a thunderbolt hard. It's so hard. It's like infinitely hard. And then God is even harder than that. You know, like it's so much more solid. You know, yeah. If you experience that, you know,
yeah, coming back,
they can't even arise. You know, those things can't even like you'd have to decide that they arise. You'd have to decide that the bed quality arises. You'd have to will it. I will that now anger appear within me. Otherwise, that continuous mental control, it just overrides everything, but you can also come back out of that and become like normal again. You don't have to like stay in that, but at least you know how to return.
So I'll drop a huge hint. Coming back from an experience like that is like it's so bright that coming back to the senses is like coming back to a dark cave.
Yeah, the senses are dark. The soul is light. The senses are dark. Remembering God is easy. Forgetting God is hard.
Right. Going back
instead of the opposite, where remembering God is hard and forgetting is easy, it actually flips around. You don't even know when you stopped meditating. Like if you try to stop meditating, automatically within like seconds, you'll be like back in meditation.
Yeah,
I have a question because
that's actually the source of crazy wisdom too, which like explains like some actually talented. Actually, this guy is one of them, right?
Well, let me zoom in here.
We got
Rasputin. Oh
yeah.
My boy.
Yeah. What's it called? Yeah, that's like crazy wisdom. Those people have experienced that, or some. They have some sort of relationship with that, so their actions in the world seem kind of silly or strange or contradictory, or they, it's a very thin ethical line there, but that's like that's what
I literally can't have long hair or I look like Rasputin. It's like
I was about to say you would make a good Rasputin.
It's like a thing.
You should do it.
I can do this thing. Yeah.
My dad is an Englishman, and he knew somebody that was present as a little boy at the death of Rasputin. He had a conversation with him and said he watched him get shot and stabbed, and he died in the river, which that river was actually the same river that his sister drowned in, and he jumped in to save her, and he like succumbed to the cold. She died, and then somebody pulled him out. And there's like some question as to whether that's like why he actually died, because like it was the relationship with the river. But anyway, you were gonna go.
I had a couple questions. Maybe we could. I mean, I'm interested in the OTO and talking. We could go into the occult more. I like talking about the occult and occult societies, but also it's interesting, like with Mormonism, like temples, because Vedic temples, and we were talking about how you can, achieve states of consciousness and interact with, entities on some level, right? Intelligences, let's say, on some level. What do you do? Because what do you do in a temple? What do you do in a Vedic temple? Is that similar, you think, in a way? Are you channeling and doing medium work to an extent ever?
It just depends how hard you go. I mean, generally the temple is like a doorway for beginners, or advanced people also reside in a temple. In the middle, it's like not the place in a way, but in the what's it called? Meeting an entity, if you go hard, one will just like straight appear, like come before you, or walk up to you, interact with you, like you might think they're a human at first, but it'll quickly become apparent that they are not. They are not. People think this is like fairy tale stuff, but it is not. It's just what they think. It's just what they think, because they're not experienced.
That's new.
What can you say? They don't practice. If people don't practice, if you have a religion where you don't practice anything, you're not going to make any advancement. You're just going to be left thinking things. Hallucinating essentially. At least I think God accepts our hallucinations. At least God's merciful. So even if we have wrong ideas about God, he'll still save you. But like if you want to actually like come to know God in a deep way and please God, then you need to start finding out, and you need to do some practices. What do you say to that? Is that helpful?
It's exactly he's in the background here. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing, it sounds like, right? Because like usually you have to fast. I don't know if it's exactly the same thing, but with the LDS, they have to wear like temple garments that have symbols that represent the name of God, like just 1, 2, 3 kind of thing that's going on. Like,
So the name of God is important.
yeah, well, it's Yahweh. It's like a tetragrammaton kind of thing.
Yeah, yo, Dave.
It's so important that they don't really understand it for the most part. Most people don't even know that about
the
it.
name of God is considered to be the highest mantra in the Tantra. You know, like it's the center of the mantra. Like in mantras, you have like the seed, like Om or Kling or Hring. You have these different sounds that are pleasing to the deity. Then you have the name of God. Then you have like a suffix, which is like a particular type of approach, followed by, you know, another suffix, usually like, which is called a palava, like fat or swaha, or, you know, there's various ones, you know, that have specific energies they use in the approach. But yeah, the name of God is actually the center of all mantras. Om is even actually like considered to be one of the most primordial names of God. You know, it's like the sound you hear always wherever you go, humming, you know.
Another
So,
thing,
name of God is important to Mormons, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that and also they're supposed to wear. They have to wear something, and it's kind of similar to me, like to the strap, right? Like it's kind of a similar idea, like the Vedic strap, the
Brahmin thread.
Yeah,
that Upanayan. It actually, the name is the Upanayan means the inner eye.
Yeah,
that means the sun, essentially.
I think there's a lot of things about the temple that seem kind of interesting to me. Is there anything that you can think of, like about doing karma for the dead or anything like that? Like doing work, like
Tarpana.
Yeah, Tarpana. Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's well, like it depends how hard you go. Like if you just go like to pure devotional level, like your ancestors are automatically benefit. You could avoid Tarpana, but like if you aren't like at that level, then you should probably just do something to help mom and dad, you know, or your ancestors. Like give some honor to your ancestors. I think a lot of the times people having bad luck is because they're not respectful to their ancestors. You know?
Maybe explain a bit about like what Tarpana is for and what it is. The practice.
You can look it up. I mean, there's Tarpana is, well, you're giving them usually like a food or some water, you know. But it's not just that, like it's not like they're like ghosts that are hungry that are like eating food and water. That's not the meaning. It's more of like the performance of the act like sustains dharma, and by sustaining dharma or righteousness is done unto them. Does that make sense? Like
right.
By doing righteousness unto your ancestors, one is like a strength of the world, like you're becoming part of the strength of the world, and the ancestors bless you for becoming part of the strength of the world.
Interesting. Yeah. And like you do have the Yagnopavita, which is essentially the Upanaya.
Yeah, this is more of a Brahminical, like a Brahmana.
Right.
So yeah, the Brahmanas are definitely doing big duty to uphold Dharma. It's sad that the British tried to, you know, what do you call it?
Anglicize them?
Scapegoat them, actually.
Okay.
Oh, these are the guys who have caused all of your... Dude,
did you see Shiva on my show? Shiva, do you see Shiva on my show, Dr. Shiva?
Oh no, I wanted to see. Is he the libertarian?
Yeah, he's a politician. But he's super not. He's like a untouchable who hates like Brahmins. He hates like elitism.
He's what do you call it? A self-loathing. You know, that sucks. I don't want to. You know, I would love to actually talk to him.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's cool. I actually love him. I did. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry for the self-loathing. You should.
Right.
That's a neo-colonization of the mind. Unfortunately, that's the remnants of colonialism, which is ultimately neo-colonialism.
Man,
then you hate the custodian of culture.
For an AI guy, I have a huge sympathy for the whole, like your whole human race. I think they're all interesting. I don't know. I kind of have another thought, and maybe like, you know, James, you have thoughts on this too. The satanic verses. I was thinking this is kind of a segue here, and like like an angle turn. But in terms of like the divine feminine, like Mahadevi or Kali or different things like that. There's like this. The satanic verses are when Muhammad talks about the 3 Meccan goddesses, the 3 goddesses of Mecca, and kind of says like there's more to it. Like they're really like it's like more to just it's not just a god or something like that. It's like really complicated. They don't want him to ever talk about it again, and they say Muhammad accidentally channeled that from Satan, right? And they just kind of like leave it out of the Quran. But it's interesting because the three Meccan goddesses, where are they at? Hold on.
Makes me think of the triple moon goddess.
Exactly, you're already going there. Yeah, because we got Allah and Manat, which are the goddesses of like, like prosperity, destruction, and what was Manat? The goddess of, I forgot, fortune, fate, death, destiny, and all that, which is pretty sweet, right? But that reminds me, because like three goddesses and like Hecate.
Yeah, that's Hecate. Yeah. So
Right.
Statue of Liberty.
yeah,
Every time.
yeah. So
Yeah.
If a girl ever has hair like that, I don't know what's wrong with me. If it's just a new wave music, but I like it. I like the spikes.
I'm down.
I like it. It's a very nice lady.
I'm telling my wife to get some spikes.
Dude, Hecate is cool. But all right, sorry, James.
Well, so what are you asking? Because I mean, you've got Nuit, you've got Hecate, you've got Kali, all very similar goddesses that the initial conception of them is that they're dark in some way, except for Nuit. Nuit is very friendly. She bends in ecstasy to kiss the secret ardors of Hadid, so it's pretty nice of her. But gosh, I mean, it's like what direction do you want to go? So like Hecate and Kali, right? There's both of those goddesses. There's you can approach them on the right hand or the left hand, and they accept both. So you sometimes have these deities that they accept any offering, which means that God also accepts the derelicts of society. It's not like they're any less God than you are, right? Or there's just I don't know what to say about it. It's like
Soul.
like yeah, like Shiva. It's like what is useful for one person in their lifetime and their karma and their chart may be completely destructive and a waste of time for somebody else with a different chart, a different lifetime, a different demeanor, right? If like, for example, if you cannot keep a job for your life, you cannot hold on to money, you are destined to be poor and just have constant issues with participating in society, then that can easily be a waste of a lifetime, just running against that wall, and it will bring you a lot of misery. But if you have that same conditions in your life, a life of monkhood would benefit you greatly. You don't own anything. You don't have a bank account. You don't go to work. You don't have to, you don't get dumped by your wife, have your kids hate you and all that stuff. You just never participate in that. That's a much better use of that birth chart. And so likewise, some people are goth, right? Is what we see in culture, right? Some people are attracted to those things. Some people prefer to be awake all night, as opposed to being awake early in the morning. Some people have a stronger moon in their chart than they do the sun. So they could spend their entire life trying to wake up early, and it just will, they'll be destroying their body in the process, because something will always happen deep in the night that will prevent them from sleeping at that time. And these are like pedantic examples, or just lesser examples of what the demeanor of a person is, based on their chart. So, like Kali, she's actually a very, very sweet goddess, and she's a protector.
She's a mother, Mother Kali.
Mahakali, yeah.
Protects the righteous.
Right, protector of the saints.
And she's only slaughters demons.
And apparently
that so-called demon diet, the Asura.
Right. So you can think about it this way. I think it says somewhere that no evil exists in the world because Kali has destroyed it. But that's obviously not the case, right? So what does that mean? That means that everything that does happen in the world that seems to be evil is probably conducted by whatever is devotional to Kali in some way, which means that she is the vice regent over those things, right? So that means that you are protected from those things because you have a personal relationship with that goddess, and anything that is devotional to her will recognize that in you and respect that. So that's like the basis of the protection there is like things won't mess with you. But if you rebuke them and like, this is evil and I'm good and all this stuff, then you're just going to be, you're crashing against the rocks,
Well, I think sorry to interject, but part of the issue with that is that, not issue in a bad way, but in Tantra, right, their idea of a non-duality, right, wants you to recognize the inherent holiness everywhere, right?
Yes.
It's sacred everywhere, right? Therefore, you'll see these tantric practices like doing coitus on a half-burned corpse and doing meditation at the same time, these kind of things. Antinomian, like
right.
antisocial type practices. It doesn't mean like that you have license to do anything and everything. Generally, those kind of there's an inherent weaving. Tantra means to weaving together of matter and spirit in Tantra. So in the non-duality aspect of Tantra, then Kali is also governing both sides, you could say. Although I would say with Kali, because she is an Ugra form, a martial form, generally the people who benefit the most are people who are not like married.
Right.
Because she will do aggressive mercy. So like the sweetness of Kali is that she will rectify.
Which hand do you approach her on, right? So like if you're worshiping Smashana, which is Smashana, whatever that word, you're worshiping the goddess of the graveyard, right? The cremation ground form of her, which like actually if you do currently give offerings to Kali, or you are interested in it because inner divine feminine or something like that, make sure that she is not stepping onto Shiva. I better get this right. With the right foot. Correct me, Nowl.
No, this is not my wheelhouse. I know more cosmogony and lore. That is a specific tantric practice. Maybe you're initiated onto that. I'm not a
I'd have to go. So
there are things like that, like the iconography actually matters in the magic. That
right.
That's why people jump into things when they don't fully. But so there are a lot of Bengalis, like family people who worship Kali.
So let me explain this though before you go. Right. So before you go that direction, she is like the wife of Shiva, like Shiva.
She's a wife. She's a mother.
Yeah, right. So the compassionate side of her, like is her stepping on Shiva with the left foot, right? So it's it's like it's kind of nerve-wracking because either one, you're giving offerings to one icon, which you're asking for things to basically liberate you from material attachments, and it's going to do that by creating utter misery in your life to where you really have no choice but to kind of withdraw from that, and that's a real experience. And if you're worshiping that form and you're not expecting that, that can cause trouble for you. It's still going to the end goal of liberation, you could say, or darshan, but there's a kinder way where if you're a grihastra or a householder, you don't want your house to burn down, you don't want to be single, you don't want to meditate on corpses, you don't want to live in the cremation ground, you don't want to smear yourself with ashes. It just may not be useful in your life. So you worship the other form, and then she's very very benevolent, and actually she's quite strong. Like, you should be getting effects from giving offerings or doing devotion. It shouldn't just be like,
Yeah, you should pretty much feel it instantaneously.
Yeah,
you'll feel it. If you didn't feel it, something's not happening. You didn't do it.
Yeah, you can.
You're probably not in the lineage. You're probably
if you look close, you can kind of see in the cameras they kind of don't know what to do with energy a little bit, but I don't want to make it seem like a brag. But you can see it.
But like, okay, but
ever, right?
Anybody has the right to approach God, right? It's not just like for the elite. But if you want to make advancement, you should try to move in that direction.
But and don't deny physical sensations.
Don't fall back. Like, hold the line, but also move forward.
Right.
Advance,
you should be having sensations.
Advance,
right? So like look back. I'll blow Nowl up for a second here. If you look back on the video, you can see an orb flying past Nowl's camera. So like, he's not going to admit to it because he's very humble. But you should be having effects from doing your practices, being devoted to a god or a goddess. You take one step, God takes two. Right? So if you're doing the right steps, you should be having things happen, right? If you're a Christian, you should probably be having darshan with Jesus eventually, right? You should be having prophetic dreams. You should be having, maybe
you're thinking about him 24/7. You should be seeing his image shining in your heart ever brighter.
If somebody accidentally
on your tongue,
shows you an image of Jesus, it should like take over you and tears come to your eyes, right? Your entire spine should light up. You should feel like you're glowing from like the top down, right? You should be getting like goosebumps, just like talking about things, because you're referencing it with your mind and you already have that relationship.
Yeah, like if you're talking about him, you should feel like he's like listening to the conversation,
right? Which is like why
in the room too, silently, like nodding, like yeah.
Which is like why it's not a light thing to just just talking about names or talking about.
You should practice, right? That's the whole point. I think we're trying to get here is you need to practice. You don't practice, you're not going anywhere. And
take empowerment into a mantra or initiation into a practice or prayer or something. I don't know exactly how that works with Christianity or anything like that.
Really, I wish I had made this like 5 seconds earlier when you were talking about it.
That's the feeling. That should be the feeling. Actually, that's God's feeling when you actually remember him. I think, this is my personal opinion from reading the Hermetica, that the original sin is actually identifying with your body and forgetting where you came from. Because you were saying before, asking about souls, right? You were there before the Big Bang. You've always been there. So you're the one that forgot. But it's forgivable because this place is illusion, right? Let's look at this word, apocalypse. Do you know what that means?
Revealing. It's like the opposite.
Revealing. But that doesn't really
Unocculting.
that doesn't even really say it, right? We can appeal to lower natures and get a better understanding here, right? So oh my God, don't make chibi stuff.
Come on, like baby Jesus is watching, right?
What is this, feministus?
No, this is little baby Jesus. Jesus is a cute little kid. Jesus.
Oh, child Jesus.
Jesus got long hair.
This is Santo Bambini.
Man.
You should make them making little clay pigeons and putting life into them, and they become little Pokemons.
And then shooting them out of the sky.
But so okay, so this word apocalypse, it sounds like an awful experience, right? We don't want this to happen. Yes, you do, because in ancient Greece, women used to walk around either nude or topless, or they'd basically be unveiled from here, right? The word calypsis means to cover, right? So the women used to cover themselves when they were in the company of somebody they didn't like, right? Or somebody that was sort of gawking at them the wrong way. They would cover themselves, right? So this is like a beautiful woman covering her breasts, right? From some stranger lusting after her. Well, she's a human being, right? She's a soul, and you just reduced her to her physical body, and so she hid the mysteries from you, right? Apocalypse, apo meaning away, means away with calypsis, right? So Isis unveils herself.
Appa is also, we had this conversation, Appa is a Sanskrit cognate. So Appa also means away in Sanskrit. So that's that PIE, Proto-Indo-European connection there.
Right. Yeah. So so I forget where I was going with that.
Well, you're excavating like becoming worthy, doing practice, receiving the revelation, as opposed to having the revelation being included to the unworthy, like having secrets, our conversations about secrets and revelation.
Right. And
what
so
do you think, Andreas?
And this is very divine motherish too. Like if you like with the female deities, they're very apparent and they attend to you very quickly. So
I feel like people having sexual fantasies about God's wife would keep her out of lore.
That's actually
exactly
an aspect of it,
right? So they call them the satanic verses. It's like, oh,
like in the Krishna worship, it's actually not about Krishna; it's about Radha. But Radha is a secret. That's rahasya. That's a secret. Rahasya actually. So here's the thing: guya or secret doesn't just mean secret. It's what's called a gerundive, which means to be kept secret. So like the word for secret in the Sanskrit is actually stronger than just a mere secret. It's like injunctive, like to be kept secret, like do not break the oath, right?
Well, and that's the thing is secrets keep themselves. That's not this thing like we're going to kill you. It literally means like when you try to expose the mysteries that have been unveiled to you, you get there's consequences to that, right? So you can't reveal these things. Like
you basically stop progressing, it won't reveal to you. It's like kissing and telling,
right?
It'll stop revealing to you if you like. I basically just given up telling anybody anything about my personal experience, and I just like keep referring to like the scripture. Like I'm like, no, I'm not gonna tell.
It's weird though, because like literally, I don't know. I think it was literally today. I was driving in Santa Cruz and I was listening to like KZSE, and there was this like weird meditation lady on the radio, like music, and she's like I forget, but it was like Vishnu is there, made of white light, and he's there with his consort, and they are piercing you, and you are enveloped, and do not be bewildered. And it was just like, I forget, but it's just like really weird because like that seems really relevant that played today.
Yeah, you got to sort. So if you keep meditating, that will go away essentially.
What do you think?
So like somebody was like, I'm meditating. They went to like Srila Prabhupada. They're like, when I meditate, I see a bright red dot, and then he's like, keep meditating, it'll go away. Like, all these kind of things are like things that need to like go away.
Yeah.
Like all this like riffraff chaff.
I
Like
mean, it was right after I went to
many,
Costco.
like many filters. Like it's weird. Like there's many gates, right? Like you got to pass through the gates, you know. And even if the gate looks like it's unwelcoming, I would rather personally go to a place where I face difficulty. If there's something there, then just like go to a place where everybody's nice to me.
Well, I wasn't saying like there's anything good about that radio show. It's just really interesting synchronicity that it's talking about like God and his consort. No, it's okay. I hear you, and they're right because there's probably something to it. But still, the idea of God and his consort, like, I mean,
yeah, that's a secret, rahasya.
Right.
The female part is actually, I think you're snap on there with the feminine has been kept a secret.
Yeah. So and
that's a huge. It's a huge. It almost stands for the secret.
So let's look at some words here, right? Matter. What does that come from?
Well, that comes from the Sanskrit matra. It means mother. The word matrix also means mother.
Right. So where's
the word mother is basically a Sanskrit word matra.
So where's the Divine Mother right now?
Well, we're in her womb.
Exactly.
As the space is the womb.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no distance between you and God. There's no distance. There's only separation that's constantly reinforced by yourself and your senses, right? So senses are no good, right? You can use them to follow the chain back, but there's no distance between you and God. You know, doesn't matter if you want to worship, you know, something that looks dark or whatever, God will come to you in any form. I actually think that if people got together really seriously and made icons and seriously dedicated themselves to worshiping the flying spaghetti monster, somebody would eventually have darshan with the flying spaghetti monster.
Oh yeah, they do. That's what CERN is, right? CERN is like, isn't like the 10. It is, yeah. The 10-dimensional string theory is like the spaghetti monster, and like the 3 6s are the symbol of CERN, right? I know there's probably more symbols,
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what it says in the Rig Veda. Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha. The Purusha has 1,000 faces. It means there's like 1,000 approaches, 1,000 ideas, 1,000 religions, 1,000 languages. There's a person in the comments that's like, "What's the point of all this bureaucracy?" It's there to help you.
It's a flying spaghetti monster.
According to your need, it's there to assist you where you're at. So people are attracted to different aspects of God. Not everybody's got the same taste or proclivity.
I like that point though, just because like you look at like the Church of Satan and how they like help kids not get beat up and like clean beaches, and so like there is something to the point of just like God works through anything, no matter what you try to do. You know, probably is the.
Yeah, I mean, Satan is if we're taking the the biblical Satan is an archangel. You know, there's no this is like to go back to like the OTO misconceptions. Crowley writes, if you actually read the damn books, right, you'll come across this where he talks about black magic and pacts, right? I think that's the name of the chapter. He says it simply: the devil does not exist. There's no opposite of God, right? There is no opposite of a unity, right? it would be dispersion, right? So that's the closest you can get to the opposite of God, right? So if something is an adversary, in a way, they're a coach, right? They're going to force you to go through the hard thing, and they're going to try to make it harder for you. Well, you know, what's that thing? You know, if you're hated, consider yourself blessed, or whatever it is. There's the line in the Bible. I used to like to reference it. I've forgotten it now. But if you're going through stuff that's really hard, you're blessed. You know, there's like a courage to being hated, for example, right? But there's no like nefarious end to that. There shouldn't be. I just don't. It's like an untenable idea. This idea of like worshiping Satan, right? You're worshiping an archangel. You know, you're worshiping an archangel,
like a potency of the omnipotent. You're
Well, most
through
right?
some
Or you're an atheist. You don't believe in God anyway, and that's
I mean, mostly because like church.
You're a Christian. You're a disgruntled Christian.
The Church of Satan seems like disgruntled Christians that are going through a lot. And I get the thing is they're going through a lot. Like a lot of like you're like you hear them out. You're like, oh yeah, you were like molested or like kids beat you up at school a lot. Okay, like you're going through a lot because of your community, which was this church that you're rebelling against. I get it, but that's different than like worshiping Samuel or something like that. Yeah.
Right. And of course, nobody loves death and decay. And there's vice regents for those things, but those aren't evil. They're just antithetical to you, right? It's like this idea that demons are bad, right? No, they're not. They built the Temple of Solomon, right? So like, what does that mean, right? They're better with matter than we are, right? And let's go back, right? Where's the Divine Mother again? All around us, right?
In all places, in all times, and beyond.
And Ma Kali is the Divine Mother.
That's one of her names. Kali. She's the eater of time.
Right. And who's devotional to Kali as well?
All living entities, whether they know it or not.
Well, you could argue that for sure, but particularly you could say demons, right? Because she accepts.
Oh yeah, Asuri. She's the Asura takes shelter of her.
Exactly. So she accepts all offerings, right? So then, if you think about,
she accepts all offerings. I've seen scriptural injunctions where she does not accept.
Well,
and then
don't divert. Yeah,
worship her.
Let's go.
Then I tried to do a human sacrifice on a saint, and it didn't work out very well. They thought he was retarded because he was a saint and was not engaged outwardly. So they're going to try to sacrifice like a man animal, somebody who was not very intelligent because.
Well, let's come back to this in a second.
He rejected it. She came and like cut their heads off. Yeah, you gotta be careful with tantra. I think tantra definitely requires a guru.
Right, of course. Yeah, you should. I mean, you like we keep saying like to not go for charlatans. The first step should be find a teacher, right?
And you should also study. I think you should also study before you find a teacher to try to learn something. You have like one eye open, then you need to get your other eye open from the guru, because there's a lot of charlatan gurus too. You got to sort through. Unless you got a lot of good fortune, it'll take you automatically. But I find that applying my insincerity or appealing my insincere side to God, saying, God, I'm not really as sincere as I wish I was, and I would like to be more sincere. Can you please help me to become sincere and worthy? It's a way to approach. Otherwise, if you just assume, oh, I'm going to get this thing, many have tried.
So I wanted to address a comment here. It says, demons are definitely bad. I don't recommend anyone mess around with summoning or communicating with them. Archangels are better, but still dangerous.
Tomato are great. Tomatoes, you should never have tomatoes. Only tomatoes.
So
we're not talking about demon in that way, man. We're talking about the Greek.
Well, so let's go through this, because this is important, right? Demons are definitely bad. No, they're the antithesis to your physical body, or to the direction that you evolve. They are the antithesis, right? So are they bad for you? Not necessarily, right? Do you have a direct relationship with them? Well, if you do, you better know what the hell you're doing, right? This is a criticism I have of OTO people, right? They go to the Goetia first, which it's debatable if those are demons or not. They might just be spirits, but I think nobody can.
It's just a demon. Like, what's the Greek sense of the word demon? It's just like some like subtle entity.
Yeah, but like the Slavs, there's a thing that like Slavics have, like where spirits, like people even, or things can become eternal, like they can manifest into like wicked eternal things that like spread, like people become like other people. This like bad trait spreads, right? So you could have wicked spirits, you can have wicked memes that exist, right? And those are
certainly.
Well, before you go there, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So let me just cover this, because you're going in a good direction. But he says, I don't recommend anyone mess around summoning with them or communicating with them. I agree that if, I don't know why beginners or spooky bros or witchy poos goes directly towards that, it's pretty silly. It's like, it's like being a blind person and wanting to cross traffic or something. You're blind. You have to admit that to yourself. If you can't see what you're evoking or something, don't do it. It's just, this is like why you should focus on gnosis.
I feel like talking to angels is the same thing, though. I don't think you should trust like something that's like, I'm an angel, because that's literally what Lucifer says, because Lucifer is an angel. If Lucifer is Samuel or whatever we're talking about, like in this archetypical like thing, you're talking about something that is, I mean, and also the idea of a fallen angel, I'm curious about, because what if, I mean, aren't we essentially, what are we like? We're fallen to earth. Aren't we kind of like and Mormons are like angels, by the way, from Mormons, angels are pre-human and then they become human and then they go off to become gods. So like all angels, like that's their whole thing, right? So
go back to what I said before, right? That what I think is the original sin,
forgetting yourself and learning your body. That was the word.
That is that you're not a material being. You are a spiritual being. Bodies are vehicles that you are inhabiting. They have their own karma, right? But you're the observant, right? You are the observer, right? Of your life, but you're not of matter, right? So like a being that is deeper into matter than you are, right? The Divine Mother, right? Temple of Solomon, right?
The Divine Mother, that's God.
Let me finish though, right? They have more providence, right, over physical matter, don't they? Right? If they can build a temple better than we can, that's they're the fish in water and we're not, right? So if you build a relationship with them, you better know where your home is, right? You better have a better relationship upstairs before you start messing with everything downstairs, right? And that's the point. They're not bad. It's like,
I don't even deal with that. I only deal with devotion to the supreme God, so Vishnu. But I don't deal with, like, for example, Kali is God the Mother. It's also Vishnu. She's not different. Right. So Durga is Vishnu. Vishnu is Durga. They're the same person, just different face. But like I still, even though I don't spend time with like lower entities, I think it would be kind of inauspicious or like unfortunate if magic went away from the world, because magic gives us science about our original self. I don't think dealing with lower spirits is inherently bad. I think there's a lot of fools rushing in, but like I think it would honestly be quite bad if we didn't get touches of the celestial in a closer proximity. Like
Could a frozen embryo have a soul? I feel like, of course. I mean, I don't know. Like, this is not medical, so I think we can say what we want to say. But like, the thing is made up of matter, and matter has energy and spirit, and so Atman would be in all, like, it's in printer paper.
Yeah,
It's
what
gonna,
it looks like matter is Atman. It's just looking like matter.
yeah. So if it's in printer paper, it's probably in a frozen embryo too. You know.
Well, so like, could a frozen embryo have a soul? No, that's like that's a vehicle that's being made, right? So
Well,
like,
the soul has the embryo. It's the other way around. It's not even that the embryo has the soul. Souls have the,
Yeah.
right.
you don't. The body doesn't have you. You have the body.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a broken vehicle in GTA 3. You know.
Right.
I'm more of a GTA 4 guy myself. Nico Bellic, shout out the Slavs.
This one's classic.
I miss Vice City, actually. I miss those long bike rides. Done killed my people for the day, and
oh man, nothing wrong with GTA 5. There isn't anything.
Well, don't you think it would be inauspicious if there weren't like higher levels of material, like spirits to interact with? Like they're still materialistic, but they're like more immediate, like ghosts, or like some like forest. What do you call it? Like there's like local deities that we don't know about, but they're like responsible for like a grove or like a forest. But they're like neutral. It'd be inauspicious if we just like completely ignored them.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, okay, you're talking about angels. Okay, that's above your pay grade. You're talking about demons. Like, you're going all the way to the basement, right? You're going all the way to the basement. So you're let me get in the camera here. You're wanting to talk about either this or either this. Like, why don't you just like join the agnostics for a while, or at least like come to the middle and talk about stuff that's more relevant. In fact, interact with things that are more relevant, right? Like your ancestors, right? Your teacher or lineage, or what's pretty fun is earth spirits.
You could try the fruits at the supermarket. You can ask them if they're ripe. That's fun.
It's like
I'll be ripe in a couple days.
Like, Andreas, are you hot or cold right now?
Yes.
Yes, exactly is the right answer, because it's like, what, you have to I don't know until I find feel something hotter or colder, right? You're where you are, right? So like, there's so much in between that, like, when we talk about religion or mysticism, we are almost always punching way above our pay grade, right? And it's kind of silly after a while, right? You get this in OTO. A lot of like really frail, pale, sick looking people who know everything in this 800-page book that they spent their entire social life reading this one book. It's like, who cares? You're walking worm food. How are you going to handle that? Time is ticking. You're getting older. What are you going to do with all this stuff in the books? Right? So there's a point where all this stuff is rather irrelevant. If you cannot clear your mind for 15 minutes, right? If you cannot hold a shape in your mind for 1 minute, do you know how long that is? 1 minute. Just hold a stupid triangle in your mind for 1 minute without it changing shape, breaking, going to something else, thinking about what you're going to do after, or like how good I am at meditation or this or that. Then like, none of this stuff is really for you anyway. It's cool. I love mythology. I love fantasy, right? I love science fiction. I love all that stuff. But there's a reason why people equate all this stuff with fiction, and they talk about Sky Daddy. Might as well be. Because if you can't demonstrate Whose lip service are you paying? You know, it's like I never, pity not the fallen. I never knew them. It's like, uh, I'm gonna start like quoting the book of the law because it's in there. It's like yonder beggar may be a king. There is no certain test. So like you have to start from I don't know. I have to find a teacher and I have to practice. You have to have a recognition of your ignorance. You have to know that you do not know. Get rid of your double ignorance and go down to single ignorance, that you know that you don't know, right? Double ignorance is the biggest problem in the world. Plato clocked it. No philosopher has ever topped it. His device, his literary device of using Socrates is brilliant. If you know what he's actually doing with that, then it's an amazing holy book if you can actually understand it. But that's the most important thing in the entire world, right? In politics alone. To think that you know when you don't know means that everything that you do in that subject is wrong, or your ignorance can be creating chaos, right? That's evil. That's the only evil in the world, right? People where they should not be doing things that they should not be doing, right? If a demon is possessing you and causing shit wrong in your life, guess what? It is not doing what it should be doing. And that is evil, right? So they're not inherently evil, but the evil is in the ignorance, right? You're always acting. You are always acting. Every single second, you're having a thought, you're having a feeling, you're doing things in the world. Do you want to do it blind and break your little toe? Because you're, like you want to bump into shit, you want to break shit, you want to hurt yourself, do it with ignorance. If you don't want to do that, if you want to be a holy man, if you want to experience this stuff for real, then get rid of your double ignorance. And then you become something that can receive, right?
Machine Gun Kelly is like one of the greatest philosophers of our time. He has this line, all I know is I don't know nothing. All I know is I don't know nothing at all. And I knew immediately when I saw this, I was like, oh, that is like
Well, he knows something.
très profund. Like he really he really knows that all he knows is he doesn't know anything. I don't know nothing. I mean, it's just he's
Going to the comments here.
That's hyperplay.
Melissa says, but I can't even hold a thought in my mind, shape in my mind for 15 seconds. Well, if you can't hold a shape, why don't you try your personal form of the Lord that you
I think she's saying she can. I think she's saying she can. So
yeah, she's
15 minutes. Oh, I misread it. Yeah. Well, if you can hold a shape, if you can't though, try
she's a potential witch. She could do it.
She can do it. I misread, but
here's a critique.
If you can't do it,
she's got potential, kid. Yeah.
But for those who can't, try the personal.
So here's a critique, because if she can do that, then she's actually practiced something.
Yeah. There's no way that she's just doing that right from the get-go.
Well, right, and I'd say I
hope to God it's because like there's an episode of the Care Bears where they teach you how to do it. But okay,
really?
I don't know. That'd be sweet. Maybe. They do it in Donald Duck. Donald Duck. Donald Duck in Mathemagic Land in the 50s teaches you.
I love that.
I saw your episode on what you said. Donald Duck is thought or set. Which one? And then you said Snoopy is what do you say? Not Snoopy. Goofy is Anubis. Is that what you said?
Yeah, and sometimes Seth, but yes, Anubis. And I think Thoth is Donald Duck. Yeah.
Well, I want to say this one idea. Not everyone is meant to receive. It may have something to do with bloodlines. Two different ideas, them together kind of creates this ethno-spiritual, ethno-religiosity, which is can be quite a toxic create hatred between peoples and everything. Number one, not everybody is meant to receive. Correct. That's why there's hard stops of initiation and, see, uh, whispered tradition and all that stuff, right? Not everyone is meant to receive. In fact, it's kind of rude to try to enlighten somebody who's just trying to have a wife and have fun and have a job and have a good physical life. That's what most spirits are here for, right? Most souls are here to just have a normal life, just to be a householder. That's fine. That's totally fine. And that's where being a good person is the natural spiritual path of everyone, is to be a good person, right?
You don't think you should just casually drop something?
I don't know. Maybe I have. Maybe I have. But the people who are onto the scent, they're like looking for it because they have that thirst in their soul. They might perk up to it. But for everybody else, it's cool mythology. It's like reading. The Odyssey is fun and cool.
That's the thing, is like not everyone needs to understand all the symbolism, right? Like, so with Disney stuff, with Donald Duck being Thoth, like he's constantly learning the law. Like he's constantly going through. He's the first one to learn how to pay income taxes, and he understands why he has to do it and why it's right. Like he's the first one to get enlisted in the service. He goes through all these things, and Goofy's always demonstrating how to do things wrong, because he's like kind of Sethian, like chaos, but also constant destruction and success even through the chaos. Like everything works out. It's just really crazy how it happens. I mean, there's a lot of this mythology that would probably be forbidden by normal people to watch, because they're Christians in middle America in the 50s, but all of a sudden it's a Disney thing. Disney's somehow okay, or it was at the time, right? Like it wasn't so obvious at the time for some reason. So like Disney was acceptable and like mainstream. And so kids were watching all these things and getting all these lessons anyway, right? And so like think of a perfect circle. Doesn't matter why you practice yoga. Like if you're thinking of a perfect circle and you train kids to do it, then it's in their head, right? Even though they don't understand why.
It's like working out the muscles, like you're engaging, like you're exercise through play, like you're playing basketball and then you're like, oh, I'm having fun, but you're actually getting a workout too.
Yeah. I actually
that's
I did respect that. As I think that's the coolest thing that Disney ever did, and I think it came from Walt Disney. I think it's devolved since then.
Yeah,
I always think there's like what's the word? Profaning of things that kind of find their way into the general populace, like in culture. There seems to be always some effort that kind of takes that thing and tries to make it confusing, or they add garbage to it.
Like weak disciples. Like watch out for the weak disciples.
Well, that's the other thing, is those people, that's like double
ruined.
That's like that's like
please do not come if you want to be a weak disciple. Stay away, please.
Yeah, don't apply. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just gonna look like a fool in front of the smart people, and they're gonna notice. But you're gonna be like, anyway, these people are there everywhere, man.
And the other dangerous idea in there is that it comes from your bloodline or your ethnicity, right? So if there's something that is sacred to, a tribe or something or whatever, and they wouldn't want other people to have it because they're not of the bloodline, that's kind of a toxic idea. So it's important to kind of separate the two. And it's important to separate the body from the soul anyway, right? So bodies, they're vehicles. It's like they're cars, right?
It's made of food. At least according to the Upanishads, it's made of food, right? You have a food body, it's anamoy, right? And then you have like a pranamoy. You have some like electric interface in the nervous system between the mind and the body. And then you have the monomoy, or the mind, and then you have the atman, or vijnanamoy, or the self, and then you have anandamoy, which is God, like the joyful whole, right?
I don't like that word toxic anymore, by the way.
Which one?
It's just, I said toxic. Somebody's giving me crap.
Remember Toxic Crusaders? Everybody remember that shit? Those
Toxic
guys.
Avenger?
No, that these they had like trash cans and stuff, and they were like all like made of slime.
Yeah, Toxic
guys-
Adventure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's what it was.
Toxie. Yeah.
Toxie, that's right, Toxie.
Yeah.
It's intoxicating, right? Well, we're
Yeah.
pretty deep in it. We went 2.5 hours. Anything
Yeah.
else you think we should cover before we go?
Dude,
What do you
we
think's going on
we
with
need to
this?
interview you, Andreas, sometime. You're the one who keeps secrets well, apparently.
What do you think's going on with the soul of Donald Sutherland? Is he is he being reincarnated, immediately born into someone else, right? Like away, or does it like take time? What do you
Takes
think?
It takes time. Generally, it's usually, I think it's like 40 to 70 years. Is kind of the interval, so you can kind of clock like
What's he doing for 40 to 70 years? Is he a tree?
He could go to the moon or the sun, or he could go to some other place.
You gotta do a
Yeah.
thing. Okay. Yeah, because after 40 to 70 years, you're probably bored and you want to come back.
But
Right.
it doesn't have to be, but there's like general. Like somebody could come back within a couple years, you know.
Yeah.
it also yeah, there's a lot of variation.
Some people
Like,
have more than one body. Some people
Dude,
have multiple bodies.
do you know
Like,
one of the greatest movies?
Nirman Kai, Dharma Kai.
One of the greatest movies about reincarnation is the Mormon movie. All Dogs Go to Heaven, right? By Don Bluth.
I love that movie.
Dude,
Don
is
Bluth
that
is Mormon. Yeah, Don Bluth is Mormon. He
It's so
made
funny. I was thinking about the crocodile scene where they're all like dancing. That like popped in my head at work the other day. I was like, oh man, I missed. I was like, man, that was such like a
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's underrated. I gotta watch it again. It kind of scared me a lot as a kid. I didn't like it when I was like 5. I was like, really, dude? Like he dies like right away. But
Yeah.
like now I should watch it more as an adult. Probably.
I think it scared me. I think I might have like turned it off or something.
Yeah. See what your kid thinks about it. He'd probably be all about it. He's
Oh
like,
no,
"All right."
I'm not very good at censoring my kid.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next time.
Hey man,
Donald Sutherland is dead.
You were the watcher for Joss Whedon's first Buffy verse. Invasion of body snatchers, you made the best of the worst. From match to clue, your roles defined you. A talent so rare, one of a kind and true. Goodbye, Donald Sutherland. Donald Sutherland, your legacy will forever stand. Goodbye to the man who acted with grace. We'll miss your familiar face. In a vision of the body snatchers, you showed your might. With courage and wisdom, you brought us light. As President Snow, you chilled us all. In your role, you stood so tall. Goodbye, Donald Sutherland. Your legacy will forever stand. Goodbye to the man who acted with grace. We'll miss your familiar face. You taught us in Animal House, you fought through the dirty desert. A star shone brightly, now taken to heaven. With every scene, every line, you left your mark. A golden flame, a shining spot. As Mr. Bennett, you got humor in heart. From the start of your career, you played each part. In Ordinary People, your performance was grand. You touched our lives, took our hand. Goodbye, Donald Sutherland. Your legacy will forever